For the past several decades, American manufacturers have invested billions of dollars in Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement. And yet, very few companies have achieved the transformational results that organizations like Toyota become famous for. Why is that? I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I think part of the answer is geography. Think about Japan. It's an island nation. Land is limited, resources are limited, space is limited. When you grow up in an environment where everything is finite, efficiency isn't just a competitive advantage, it's a necessity. Now think about America. Especially here in the West, we have space, we have resources. Our history celebrates pioneers and entrepreneurs, inventors and people who solve impossible problems through determination and courage. We're builders, we're innovators, we're problem solvers. We admire the person who saves the day, and that's one of America's greatest strengths. But in a manufacturing, that same strength can accidentally become a weakness. We celebrate heroics. Toyota celebrates prevention. We reward the person who fixes the emergency. World-class manufacturers reward people who design the system so the emergency never happened in the first place. I don't think American manufacturers need to become Japanese. I think we need a leadership approach built for American culture, one that keeps our innovation, courage, and determination while creating the alignment, trust, and prevention mindset that allows lean and continuous improvement to finally reach their full potential. That's exactly what this movement is about. If you believe America can lead the world in manufacturing again, join me, join the movement. This week, I asked a question that's been on my mind for years. If Lean, the Toyota production system, Six Sigma, and continuous improvement have been available to American manufacturers for decades, why have so few organizations achieved the kind of transformation we associate with companies like Toyota? I've spent over 20 years in manufacturing asking myself that question. I've worked in aerospace, defense, automotive, electronics, battery manufacturing, fabrication, and advanced manufacturing. I've watched organizations invest enormous amounts of money training people in lean. People leave excited. They come back inspired, and then very little changes. Why is that? I don't think it's because the tools failed. I think we've misunderstood something much deeper. I think geography shaped culture. Not completely, but enough that it matters. Japan developed as an island nation. Space is finite, natural resources are limited. Historically, efficiency wasn't optional, it was survival. That environment helped foster management systems that emphasized eliminating waste, careful planning, standardization, and preventing problems before they occurred. Now think about America. We've had land, we've had opportunity, we've had room to experiment. Our history celebrates pioneers, inventors, entrepreneurs, cowboys, explorers, people willing to risk everything. That willingness to act decisively built one of the most innovative manufacturing economies the world has ever seen. And I don't think we should lose that. I actually love that about America. We're builders, we're problem solvers. We admire courage. When something goes wrong, Americans don't usually stand around waiting. Somebody jumps in, somebody stays late, somebody figures it out, saves the shipment, gets production running again. That's who we celebrate. And honestly, we should. Those people care deeply. But here's where I think manufacturing accidentally got off course. We began designing organizations that depend on these heroes. Heroism became expected instead of exceptional. Every day became a rescue mission. Eventually, people began wearing burnout like a badge of honor. This is where I think we've unintentionally misunderstood Lean. Lean never said don't care. Lean said, build systems so caring doesn't require constant heroics. There's a huge difference. Toyota didn't eliminate passionate people. It creates systems where passionate people spend their time improving tomorrow instead of rescuing today. That's brilliant. But here's the challenge. Americans don't naturally celebrate prevention. We celebrate the firefighter, the emergency room doctor, the military veteran, the mechanic who somehow got the machine running again, the engineer who stayed until midnight. Those are our cultural heroes. So when somebody quietly prevents an emergency from ever occurring, nobody notices. There's no applause, no celebration, no employee of the month. Yet that invisible work may have created 10 times more value. Here's the uncomfortable question: what does your company actually reward? Think about it honestly. When somebody saves the day, what happens? They get recognized, praised, promoted, maybe even given a bonus. Now ask yourself, when someone prevents 20 emergencies that never happened, who even knows? That's not because leadership doesn't care. It's because prevention is invisible. Firefighting is visible, and organizations naturally reward what they can see. Over time, people respond to those incentives. They don't become selfish, they become rational. If heroics are celebrated and prevention is overlooked, people will naturally invest their energy where they believe it will be recognized. That's a leadership system issue, not a character flaw. This is where I think the Holy Grail method fits. I'm not asking America to become Japan. I'm asking America to become the best version of itself. Keep our creativity, our innovation, keep our courage, our determination, but align leadership so these strengths are directed towards prevention, trust, learning, and continuous improvement instead of constant rescue missions. Because here's something I've learned over more than 20 years: you cannot build a world class manufacturing organization if your operating system depends on daily heroics. Eventually, the heroes burn out. Eventually, trust erodes. Eventually, improvement gets postponed because today's emergencies always win. That's why I call it radical alignment. Not because it's radical, because it aligns everything: leadership decisions, daily priorities, recognition, communication, improvement, trust, your mission statement, your actual culture, all moving in the same direction. When those things align, lean finally has the environment it needs to flourish. Maybe the better question is, how do we build manufacturing systems that honor American strengths while creating the kind of leadership alignment that allows continuous improvement to thrive? I believe that's the future of American manufacturing. Not copying another country, not rejecting what we've learned from them, learning from the best, then building something uniquely American. Because American manufacturing doesn't need fewer heroes, it needs fewer emergencies. And when leadership creates organizations where prevention is celebrated as much as heroism, that's when we stop merely surviving and start leading the world again. If you believe America can lead the world in manufacturing again, join me, join the movement. Earlier this week, I asked a question that has stayed with me for most of my career. If lean manufacturing, the Toyota production system, Six Sigma, and continuous improvement have been available to American manufacturers for decades, why have so few organizations truly achieved the transformational results those systems promise? I've spent more than 20 years working across aerospace, defense, automotive, electronics, battery manufacturing, fabrication, and advanced manufacturing. I've seen incredible companies, brilliant engineers, committed operators, and leaders who genuinely wanted to do the right thing. And yet, I keep seeing the same pattern. The tools would arrive, people would go to the training, everyone would be excited, and then little by little, the organization would drift back towards firefighting. For years, I thought the missing piece had to be another tool, another methodology, another training program. Now, I think the answer is much simpler. I don't think we've been asking the right question because I don't believe the challenge is lean. I think the challenge is culture. And I'd like to explain what I mean with something that has nothing to do with manufacturing: a cup of tea. One of the most fascinating traditions in Japan is the tea ceremony. If you've never watched one, it's worth taking a few minutes. At first glance, it seems almost unbelievably slow. Every movement is deliberate. Every gesture has intention. The bowl is turned carefully. The whisk moves with precision. The tea is presented with respect. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is wasted. There's no accidental movement. To someone unfamiliar with this, it can almost seem excessive. But that's the beauty of it. The ceremony isn't really about tea, it's about the discipline, respect, mindfulness, presence. It's about believing that even the smallest actions deserve care and purpose. When I first watched one, I couldn't stop thinking about manufacturing because those same values, consistency, intentionality, eliminating unnecessary motion, are woven throughout the philosophy behind the Toyota production system. They're not just factory techniques, they're reflections of culture. Now, think about the stories many of us grew up with in America. They're different. We grow up hearing about the American dream. We celebrate the entrepreneur who starts with nothing and builds an empire. The inventor working late into the night, the pioneer heading west into the unknown, the firefighter who runs towards the danger, the soldier who protects others, the engineer who somehow gets the production line running again at 2 o'clock in the morning. Our heroes aren't remembered because life was easy. They're remembered because they overcame impossible odds. That spirit built America. It fueled innovation. It put people on the moon. It created industries that changed the world, and I wouldn't trade that spirit for anything. So when people compare Japanese manufacturing with American manufacturing, I think we sometimes ask the wrong question. We ask, which one is better? I don't think that's the right question at all. I think the better question is, what was each culture optimized to become? Japan developed management systems that became exceptionally good at precision, consistency, and preventing problems before they occurred. America developed a culture that became exceptionally good at innovation, resilience, in solving difficult problems when they did occur. Those are both extraordinary strengths. The mistake is assuming the same leadership system will naturally produce the same results in two very different cultures. Oh, for decades, American manufacturers have invested billions of dollars in lean training. We've learned Kanban, 5S, Kaizen, value stream mapping, a personal favorite of mine, standard work. Those tools absolutely work. The evidence is overwhelming. But tools never exist in a vacuum, they exist inside culture. And culture determines what gets celebrated. Moment. Think about that for a moment. Every culture, whether it's a nation, a company, or even a family, gets more of whatever it celebrates. If prevention is celebrated, people devote themselves to preventing problems. If rescuing the day is celebrated, people become extraordinary firefighters. Neither outcome is accidental. Leadership creates the environment that tells people what matters most. This is why I spend so much time talking about heroics. Not because I dislike heroes, quite the opposite. I think heroism is one of America's greatest strengths. When disaster strikes, Americans don't wait. We act, we innovate, we adapt, we overcome. That's something to be proud of. But somewhere along the way, many manufacturing organizations unintentionally built systems that depend on heroics every single day. The engineer who saves production, the supervisor who stays until midnight, the operator who somehow keeps everything moving. The maintenance tech who performs miracles, those people deserve respect. But if your organization needs miracles every day just to hit the schedule, you've built dependence on heroics instead of resilience. Eventually, every hero gets tired. Eventually, they burn out, and eventually they leave. That's why I created what I call the Holy Grail method. Not because lean is broken, or Six Sigma has failed, or continuous improvement doesn't work. Quite the opposite. I believe those tools have never reached their full potential in American organizations because they're trying to grow in soil that isn't fully prepared. Leadership prepares the soil. Culture determines what grows. When leadership creates trust, alignment, psychological safety, shared purpose, and clear communication, those tools suddenly have room to flourish. That's what I mean by radical alignment. It's not replacing lean, it's creating the leadership environment where lean can finally become everything it was meant to be. And I think we're living through the perfect moment for that conversation. People are looking for something more than a paycheck. They want meaningful work. They want stability. They want to be part of something they believe in. Communities want manufacturing jobs that support families for generations. Companies want to compete globally. Leaders want organizations that can grow without burning out their people. Those aren't competing goals. They're the same goal. So imagine an American manufacturing industry that combines the very best of both worlds. We keep our courage, innovation, and our willingness to tackle impossible problems. But we also learn to celebrate prevention just as much as rescue. We build systems that don't require daily miracles. We create cultures where winning teams matter more than individual heroes, where trust flows as freely as information, where people spend their careers building something they're proud of. That, to me, is the next American manufacturing renaissance. Not becoming Japan, not abandoning who we are, becoming the strongest version of ourselves. Because America's great competitive advantage has never been our machines. It's always been our people. Leadership simply determines whether those people spend their energy fighting today's emergencies or building tomorrow's prosperity. If you believe America can lead the world in manufacturing again, join me. Join the movement.